TCU lands a linebacker for the 2025 class. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. A new member of the coaching staff that maybe is a little underrated in what he's been able to do, at least from a recruiting standpoint, hitting the ground running since he came on staff. Ken Wilson, linebackers coach. And if you remember when Ken got hired, he's been around for a while. He's been with Andy Avalos before at Oregon, spent a lot of his career at Nevada as a trusted assistant coach. Eventually got the head coaching job at Nevada. As a head coach, record wasn't great. That didn't work out super well, but is super well respected in the industry and comes over to TCU as their new linebackers coach. And the Frogs have been able to land multiple linebackers since he came on staff. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the recruiting process, who all's involved, but I imagine these guys have close contact with Coach Wilson since he's going to be the dude in that room with them, presumably, when they hit campus. And they landed another player, Sam Haley from Nashville, Tennessee, a three-star linebacker who chose the Frogs over North Carolina, Boston College, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Duke, and West Virginia. Jeremy Clark reports that he's 6'3", 220 pounds. He went over that offer list, which is fairly impressive. Again, going into Tennessee to get him from Nashville, which I like that aspect of it. Of course, TCU is always going to make their bread and butter in the recruiting world with Texas kids. And Texas high school football is an outstanding institution. There's always great players here. But it is cool and sort of eyebrow-raising when they go out of the state and find talent. And I think that's a good sign with how much recruiting as a whole is becoming, just around the country, it's becoming a nationwide event now. Everybody is starting to go all over the place. And one thing that Brian Smith told us when Andy Avalos got hired was that this could be a helpful thing for TCU as they maybe try to expand their reach outside of the state, because as someone who's been at Oregon and at Boise, Idaho and Oregon, the states respectively, don't necessarily have just a ton of high school talent. Those guys, they by necessity, especially at Boise State, have to go out of the state and find players. And so potentially that's something on the defensive side of the ball could ramp up. But as I said earlier, Ken Wilson doing a really nice job on the recruiting trail, because Sam Haley joins Keelan Abrams from DeSoto, who had an outstanding junior year, 23.5 sacks at the 6A level in Texas. And he projects more as an edge player, that new stud linebacker position that we've talked about this offseason, stand-up outside linebacker who's going to come after the quarterback a lot, will also be asked to do some things in coverage, but hybrid type of player. And that's really been the theme of the offers in the recruiting world since Andy Avalos took over, because this is a very multiple defense. They also landed Dylan Arkansas from Denton Ryan, another powerhouse program in Texas. And Dylan is more of your prototypical inside linebacker, but also seems to be a hybrid player in that he can, be out there in coverage. He'll come on blitzes and just come downhill in the run game in your more traditional linebacker variety. Watching the huddle tape from Sam Haley, I'm not saying that he can't be a guy that also is active in coverage and running sideline to sideline. But this dude looks like a old school linebacker, and I say this in the nicest way possible. He just looks like a dude with a nasty streak to him. Like you want your defensive players, especially on the D line and at those linebacker spots, to be physical, to be violent at the point of attack, and ready to come up and make plays. And when you watch his highlights, I mean, there are times where he's dropping back in coverage and reading and reacting well and making tackles. There are times where he's chasing down, running backs in the screen game where you kind of see that speed and athleticism. But the majority of his highlights are reading his keys really well, coming downhill, and taking down running backs at the point of attack behind the line of scrimmage, getting downhill and being able to take on an offensive lineman, get off that block, climb across and make a play. And there were some times where you saw him come over the top on a blitz, whether that was, through the A-gap or the outside shoulder of a guard and chase around and make a play. There were a few instances where you saw really good sideline to sideline pursuit, where he was going downhill, coming through, the gap between the center and the guard there, but he's able to go ahead and chase down the running back who's going to the outside and trying to make a play. Again, another guy that it was pretty obvious when you watched the film, and I saw this with Abrams in Arkansas too. If you're going to try to run slow developing plays where the quarterback has options at the mesh point, meaning he's putting the ball in the belly of the running back, and it's either an RPO situation where he can hand it off or pull it and throw it, or more of a traditional zone read where he can run or he's handing off the running back. Sam Haley's another player that was just blowing those plays up because of his speed, his athleticism, his ability to read the play well, get downhill, and make things happen, which is a really promising sign. I like this pickup. I like this offer by TCU. Again, just seems like a guy with a really high ceiling, and they're going to need help at the linebacker position this upcoming season. They've got multiple seniors. From that article that Jeremy Clark wrote from 247 Sports, they've got 4 senior linebackers on the roster: Marcel Brooks, Nnamdi Obaizor, Shad Banks, and Thomas Armstrong, and especially those first 3 guys. I mean, Marcel, it appears he's found a good position for his skill set. He's going to be working as one of those new guys at the stud linebacker position, trying to figure that out and cause havoc and make plays. Shad Banks has been a factor the last couple of years. He's going to be active again. And then Nnamdi Obaizor was their leading tackler last season and is going to be involved with the team again this year. So you have to have players that are going to come in and be able to play pretty quickly, because there's going to be opportunities for playing time right away. And Sam Haley's going to get that chance with the Horned Frogs as he is committed and made it known that he wants to play for TCU. Apparently this has been in the works for a while. They've known this for a few weeks now, but he officially announced it over the weekend. So congratulations to him and the family. I'm excited that he landed here in Fort Worth, and excited to see him get to work during his senior year and kind of how he can grow as a player even before he makes it to campus. Kind of resetting the board and letting you know who else is part of this 2025 class, because landing Sam did give them a pretty good jump in the rankings. They're now at 22nd overall in the nation and 4th in the Big 12 currently. But the 9 players that they have committed, so the first guy that committed and has been committed for a while now is Ty Hawkins, the quarterback from San Antonio. Ed Small, wide receiver from Austin High School or Anderson High School in Austin, Texas. Floyd Guidry, defensive lineman from Spring, Texas. Chance Abels, a wide receiver who's going to play his senior year at Dallas Christian School in Mesquite. Before that, he played his high school ball at Norman Forest. Sam Haley, who just committed, the linebacker from Nashville. Mason Peterson, tight end from Dickinson, Texas. Dylan Arkansas, linebacker from Denton Ryan, who was unranked when TCU got him committed, but is now a 3-star prospect according to 247 Sports. Keelan Abrams, the linebacker from DeSoto, and then Chris Jimerson, who's been a really prolific quarterback at North Crowley for the past few seasons, but has been recruited as an athlete and seems like he'll project as a wide receiver at the next level. I know one thing to watch there is just if he gets an opportunity to play quarterback somewhere, I would imagine that would be tempting and he could potentially flip. But that's another guy they've had a relationship with for a long time. They've done a really good job kind of making North Crowley a good pipeline with Jimerson coming in. Also got Sterling Brooks, the big defensive lineman this past offseason, who will be a freshman this upcoming year. So Sam Haley, 3-star linebacker from Nashville, Tennessee. He lands with the Horned Frogs. Congrats to him. And TCU doing work at that linebacker position. Ken Wilson getting more players. As I said, that film that I was watching, tape that I was watching, I think he's definitely could be a versatile player, but looks like your prototypical inside linebacker, and excited to see what he does when he gets on campus and gets to play with TCU. And I'm just stoked about this defense. I think it's going to be really fun to watch all these players with their versatility and athleticism get after it, be aggressive, and make splash plays. And that's such a big departure from what we saw the last few years. And I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for the team and should be something the players themselves are excited about moving forward. No easy way to transition out of that into, a more serious topic. Obviously, on this podcast, we talk TCU sports, and we talk a lot about results. It's a results-based business, whatever sport it is. But it is always important to remember that these are people, right? And they have stories, they got things going on in their lives. And there's a lot going on beyond football, basketball, and baseball. And so Peyton Tole, who has been one of the main players for TCU baseball all year, he came in from Wichita State in the offseason as a two-way player. As the year's gone on this season, he's really established himself as an ace on Friday night. And so they've kind of taken the bat out of his hand and allowed him to focus on being their workhorse and their number one starter. And if you watched the series this weekend, you might have noticed that he didn't pitch. Cole Klecker pitched on Friday. Zach Coyer came in on Saturday and pitched against New Mexico State. And his absence was because he was actually with his family. And I saw this from Jill Casita, who is Peyton's aunt, and Peyton's mom, Gina Tole, which if you followed the team this year, you might have known this information. But Peyton's mom, Gina, had been fighting cancer for a long time. And unfortunately, she passed away last week. And so Peyton was with his family, spending time with them. So I just wanted to take a brief moment to say that we're praying for the Tole family. We're praying for Peyton and the people around him. I think the fact that she's been fighting this disease for a long time, and the fact that he was able to somehow, balance baseball with that going on with his family is pretty amazing. I feel like it speaks to the type of person he is. I think it speaks to the type of family that they are and the high character that they have. And so I just wanted to take a moment to extend my sympathy and my prayers to them. I know the TCU baseball team is, being supportive of them. I know the TCU community is trying their best to be as supportive as possible. But I wanted to just mention that before we go to break here, and just allow the TCU community that listens to this podcast to know that if you have a moment today, just pray for comfort and peace for that family, because they're going through such a hard time. And we'll take a short break, and we'll come back with more sports talk after this. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. LinkedIn Jobs. If you need to find people for your small business, or if you're in charge of hiring for your business, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. You can post your job for free there. Again, it's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. It doesn't have to be a high stakes wager. It can feel that way when you're trying to find the right people for what you're doing, but LinkedIn can make it easy for you. They have all the right tools. It's not just another job board. They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So you're getting the best people in the largest pool of consumers. Over 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. 2.5 small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So TCU baseball, they did play a series against New Mexico State over the weekend. It was abbreviated because on Sunday, with all the rain across Texas, I know we had a ton of rain in Central Texas, and there was in Fort Worth as well. They didn't play on Sunday afternoon. They just went ahead and canceled that ball game. So they played 2 games, and they split that series with New Mexico State. They won the opener on Friday night by a score of 8-2. Cole Klecker started that ball game, and he went 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, struck out 7. Hunter Hodges went 3 innings after that. That was new. Hunter usually is a 1-inning type of guy. I know Jamie Plunkett, who covers the team really well, said that he's coming back from an oblique injury, and so the team had been really careful about his usage and just how they went about kind of bringing him back. But that's an encouraging sign. If Hunter can become a guy that goes multiple innings for you out of the bullpen and is still effective, then I think that's a big deal for this team moving forward. And then Chase Hoover closed it out with an inning of clean baseball. And so Frogs ended up winning that ball game 8-2. Anthony Silva had a huge 2-run homer in the 8th inning. It was over the batter's eye. I think it was over 440 feet. And Frogs kind of meticulously chipped away on offense, got it done. Then on Saturday, things did not go well. And, I mean, there's really no way around it. It's a pretty unexcusable loss. It dropped their RPI in a big way. They came into the weekend with their RPI at 32. As we stand here on Monday, it's now sitting at 38 after a 9-5 loss to New Mexico State. And Zach Collier got his first start of the season. He's been super effective out of the bullpen this year. And, of course, TCU has had issues really all season long with their starting rotation, just not having a consistent group. And so here we are, a week before the season's over, and they're still kind of trotting out new guys, trying to figure out who could be a legitimate weekend starter for them. And it didn't work out for Zach. He went 2 innings, gave up 6 runs, walked 3 guys, gave up a couple home runs. It was a rough day at the office for him. So he got pulled quickly. And then really the bullpen did a nice job after that. Zach Morris, Cademan Parker, Ben Abelt, and Braden Sloan. The rest of the game, they're able to hold New Mexico State to only 3 runs. But the TCU offense couldn't get going early. They finally started to scratch across some runs. And, overall, there's multiple issues with this baseball team. The thing that has been fairly consistent, the depth of the starting rotation has been a problem, right? The bullpen has been kind of an adventure at times too, but the lineup to me has been the thing that's been the most frustrating, and it's just consistently been an issue all year long. New Mexico State is not a team with a good pitching staff, and TCU had some opportunities that just fizzled out, with runners on base. At one point, they had cut the lead 8-2. They had the bases loaded still with nobody out, and it was unlucky. It was a line shot to short, I believe, and then one of the runners got doubled off, so suddenly you have 2 outs. And they were able to score some more runs in that game, but just not put together enough to win the ball game. So we'll see what happens this week. I know they play Baylor on Tuesday, and then they close out the Big 12 regular season with the series against West Virginia. And I still think the big key is to take 2 out of 3 from the Mountaineers and find a way to finish 15-15 in conference play. Now, West Virginia is a good baseball team. They're 17-11. They're coming off a series victory, I believe, over KU this weekend, or K-State, excuse me, and they're playing great baseball. Now, the good news is Baylor got swept by Oklahoma, and Texas Tech dropped a couple games to Oklahoma State. So TCU has clinched a Big 12 tournament berth, which I know is not the goal, but it's important because if it comes down to it and you have to go win the Big 12 tournament to get in the postseason, well, at least you are now in the Big 12 tournament and have a chance to do that. So that's significant. But getting to 500 in league play, I think, is a big deal. I'll be very interested to see what D1 and Baseball America and the other sites that make round of 60 or make the field of 64 projections say about TCU after that bad loss on Saturday. And I saw some people being like, well, why didn't they just cancel this series because of RPI purposes? Well, so everybody gets an open week in Big 12 play because of the nature of the schedule. And, a few years ago they went to Tallahassee and played Florida State. And that wasn't an RPI killer because they lost 2 of those games. And then the third game got rained out. That didn't kill your RPI because Florida State's a really good program. But also, it didn't really matter because TCU won the Big 12 that season. And so they were going to make the tournament. It was really just a question of whether or not they were going to host. But getting back to what I was saying, they didn't cancel a weekend series because that's a horrible look. I mean, you can cancel a couple midweek games. You can cancel a standalone Tuesday game. You can even get away with probably canceling a Tuesday, Wednesday game. You don't just cancel a whole series. It's just not something that you do. And honestly, you shouldn't be in this position. This team is good enough that they shouldn't be fighting for their postseason lives this late in the season. And this is the spot you put yourself in, though. And so that loss on Saturday really hurts you. You just don't give yourself a lot of room and a lot of margin for error. When you're shuffling around your pitching staff because you just don't have consistent starters this late in the season, these things can happen. So it's a tough loss, but you regroup. You try to win the game on Tuesday against Baylor and win a series against West Virginia, and I think you see where you stand after that. But I'll keep an eye out on what the projections look like after that series splitting against New Mexico State, because they were trending in the right direction, TCU was, and I wonder now if they found themselves on the wrong side of the bubble with that RPI drop. We'll have to see kind of what happens and how it plays out over the next few weeks. When we come back, I'll get to some of your reaction from Friday's show, or Thursday's show, excuse me. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team, and we do it here every day. FanDuel, NBA, and NHL playoffs going on right now. You can make your first bet, and you can make sure that it's a winning bet by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Place one $5 bet, and win or lose, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. That's right. Win or lose, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, or do it on the FanDuel app. FanDuel is where the game starts. Official betting partner of the NBA. You can bet on single games. You can do parlays. All of it's available to you. FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can guarantee that your first bet is a winning bet by going to FanDuel today and getting involved in the action. Or the FanDuel app makes it super easy for you. FanDuel, official betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. Before we get to some audience reaction, I do want to talk about one of the most consistent programs on TCU's campus, and that is the TCU men's tennis team, which took on Duke in essentially the Sweet 16. They call it the Super Regionals, the NCAA Super Regionals, on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and they swept the Dukies. They won 4-0. They won the doubles point, and then just went through the singles matchup. I've said it before. I'm not going to come on here and pretend to be Mr. Tennis. I'm not a great expert on it, but I know that David Roditi has built a great program that is tough. This team's dealt with some injuries this year. There's been some ups and downs, but here they are in the Final Eight. They're headed to the final site, the D1 Men's Championship round, coming up soon, and they're going to take on Kentucky. That starts May 20th, so a week from today. That'll be in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Ohio State will be there. Texas will be there. They played Ohio State in the indoor championships this year and lost. But congratulations, TCU men's tennis, on once again making it to the D1 championships and being one of the final 8 teams of the nation in the outdoor competition. They just find a way each and every year to be a part of it, and it's super impressive what that team has done. One player that TCU basketball is targeting, Trezarian White, big forward from UNC Wilmington, who averaged about 20 points a game last year. He's supposed to make his decision this week. It is down to TCU and Texas Tech, apparently. So be on the lookout for that. He's a fantastic player. It'll be super exciting to see what he ends up doing and where he commits. I'm hopeful that it's TCU. That would be a big addition to this Horned Frogs team as Jamie Dixon continues to try to get this squad ready for the upcoming season. I spoke on Thursday about how Sonny Dykes talked with the crew from Dave Campbell's Texas Football and said that he eventually sees a world where the group of 5 and the Power 4 kind of split off. So eventually the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC break away from the rest of college football and kind of have their own league, because it just feels like they're playing on a completely different level than everybody else. And I talked about, some of the concerns with that. Can the Big 12 make sure that they're part of this power structure when all the dust settles and things shook out? And a couple of you had some YouTube comments. Adam says, I agree with Sonny, but I don't see more than 3 teams from Texas or Florida getting to the Super 2. I think one of those things the SEC, Big Ten want to address is oversaturation in some states. Yeah, I don't see any way where TCU would get in the SEC. I just feel like with Texas and Texas A&M, they're setting the state there. Now, I think the Big Ten could be a possibility because of their location and just because it seems like they've got a decent relationship with Big Ten officials. It just kind of comes down to whether or not the Big Ten actually wants to add teams or if they're good where they're at. And then does the Big Ten and SEC keep the ACC and Big 12 around, or do they want to form their own thing? Richard Berry says Sonny's 100% correct. Like you said, TCU will have to pull their own way if they want to get invited to one of the Super 2 leagues. Big year coming for Sonny and company. how crazy it is that we're at this point in college sports. A lot has changed over the years. Yeah, a lot has changed in a very short amount of time. It's pretty wild where we are. And as I said on Thursday, I think the big thing is TCU's got to keep winning. Like that's the thing that you can do and that you can control that's going to make you attractive in the new landscape, is finding ways to keep winning games. And so that's the only thing you can really do. And that's what they have to do to be effective. And Benjamin says, SEC guy here, I'm not a fan of these mega conferences or leagues. Each has its own unique culture, rivalries, and traditions that'll be lost. He said, by the way, we don't want Texas or Oklahoma coming over. Those aren't Southern schools. Longhorns suck. They're so arrogant. Yeah, get ready for Texas, man. That's a fan base that thinks they are the stuff for sure. Yeah, I don't know how many fans really like the Super Leagues. It's just part of the new world. I think one of the things we love about college football is the regionality of it, and that's slowly phasing out and going away. And that's unfortunate, but it's all based on TV money and exposure and trying to grow the sport. And so that's kind of where we're at. This has been Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining the show, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.